Good morning, holiday nerds. What's up? It's your boy, the OGGM. It is the 27th day of December 2022, the end of a very very long, very cold year here at Site B. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning, and it is 53 degrees and supposedly going to rain. And I'm drinking sponsored coffee. This is my last one, so hopefully they'll send me some new ones. Speaking of which, just a reminder, this is a sponsored and monetized video, so if you do not like ads in your YouTube, I apologize, but I'm just letting you know why. Because I need that monies. Well, far be it from me to not give credit where credit is due. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for being Wizards of the Coast, because without you, I don't know what I would have had to talk about this year. But apparently Wizards of the Coast doesn't need the idea of taking some time off. So they're already planning what they're going to do in 2024 to continue to confuse us. So let's take a look at what they claim might be coming out in 2024, 2023, and then did I say 2023? Yeah, you know, it's more coffee. Next year, whatever it is next year. What supposedly is coming out, and in the order we're going to see it. Now, we already know that this list is bullshit because they've announced the reprint of Tyranny of Dragons, and nowhere on this list did they mention any of the Magic of the Gathering conversions to D&D or anything like what's going on with Eberron or Realms, or if they're going to do any more support for any of the previous campaign settings like Spelljammer or Radiant Citadel, or Strixhaven, or if they've just forgotten them, which seems to be a running thing with Wizards of the Coast. For Wizards of the Coast or against Wizards of the Coast, doesn't matter which side you sit on in this never-ending battle. You gotta agree with me that they just sort of abandoned the product lines. Where's support for Radiant Citadel? Where's support for Spelljammer? Where's support for Candlekeep? Where's support for any of the other Magic the Gathering settings? Where's support for Strixhaven? I mean, they don't even do errata to fix mistakes. They just kind of toss them out there and then just sort of abandon them. Anyways, here's the list, but we already know this list is bullshit. So the first thing we can expect, of course, is Tyranny of Dragons, the reprint of the thing nobody really wanted. Was there a big cry out for a reprint of Tyranny of Dragons? Were there just hundreds of souls crying out going, we need to see this yet again, even though you've already done it at least one other time, not counting, third-party takes on it or Dragon Magazine takes on it. Now, depending upon which list you look at, this is either one of the best and easiest of the products that Wizards of the Coast made to run, or one of the worst and hardest products Wizards of the Coast made to run. It has been rebranded, re-edited, made easier or more balanced, but basically you're going to be repaying for something you already have just to get some new art. And of course, it's sort of pointless to make this when in 12 months, we're going to be having a 6th edition of the game, making all these utterly obsolete. I know they continue to claim it's going to be backwards compatible, but that was before the new OGL nonsense started and before the playtest started. Anybody who's looked at the first 3 playtests can tell you, no, it's not backwards compatible. Then we have Keys from the Golden Vault, a heist-based series of adventures similar to Candlekeep, similar to Saltmarsh, similar to the other ones. We've got a whole bunch of sort of little mini adventures tied around a theme. You could maybe weave them together to tell a story, or you could just sort of run them independently, because there's obviously a huge cry out for adventures based upon heists. So if you've ever wanted to do an Ocean's 11 type adventure in your D&D, this is going to be Keys from the Golden Vault. It's going to be heists and hijinks, crime with very little punishment, but it's going to be crime that doesn't actually hurt anybody or do anything wrong, because we know Wizards of the Coast doesn't want any of their products to actually have any actual lasting consequences for the actions of the player characters, or have to be scary or involve anybody dying, or in any way, shape, or form placing the player characters in a position where they might actually lose. Then we have Big B's Presents Glory of the Giants. This is the one that a lot of people are actually kind of sort of expecting to be good. They're hoping that it will follow with what they did with Fizban's Guides to the Dragons. And a lot of people are like, say what you will, Fizban's Guide to Dragons was actually pretty good. So we're hoping this one will be to Giants what Fizban's Guide to Dragons was for Dragons. Why is it Big B Presents? I don't know. There's nothing in the lore of Big B, of the grasping hands, that would make you think, oh yeah, Big B, Giants, those two. Yeah. Other than his obsession with spells in the shape of hands, maybe they're going to try and say, well, the reason why Big B always did these spells about hands was because he really liked creatures with big. Yeah. There really is no way to discuss Big B in today's culture and his weird spell obsession with things that look the shape of hands without it quickly spiraling into something that could be perceived as sexual. And why would he be suddenly fascinated with giants all of a sudden? Couldn't it have just been another Mordecane Guide to Giants? I guess they figure they've milked Mordecane too much. They're like, which of the Gygaxian big wizards can we use? Oh, Big B. We haven't done anything with him. Let's give him the Giants book because he was the giant guy. Right? He had those big hands. Yeah, it was just... So, anyways, Giants. Then they have the Phandelver campaign. Lost Minds of a Phandelver, the very first Dungeons & Dragons adventure, came out in the very first starter set, considered by many to be one of, if not the best 5th edition adventure that Wizards of the Coast has written. Now they're upgrading the campaign setting to include everything that was in Minds, everything that was in the sequel to Minds, and plus some other stuff. And it's going to have sort of a cosmic horror theme, some vaguely Lovecraftian nonsense, but not in any way, shape, or form actual Lovecraftian, because Lovecraftian, of course, assumes that the player characters are going to be present in unbelievably otherworldly situations where there's no chance of them winning, and basically we have to worry about them going completely insane or some, really twisted Kornberg body horror kind of stuff. But we can't have that in D&D anymore because D&D has to be safe. Still, it would be nice to see what happened to the Minds, how they finish out, how you connect Minds to Dragons of Icespire, to Dragons of Stormwick, because there's supposed to be a linear story there, or at least there was with Minds and Icespire. And so, yeah, this one could be good. Maybe this is going to be the new campaign setting for 6C, the Land of Phandelver. Then we have the Book of Many Things coming out in fall of 2023. This is a Tasha Xanther style of player expansion, which has a whole bunch of new subclasses, feats, spells, deck of many things, stuff like that. A lot of fate cards. Of course, any options that they make in the Book of Many Things are completely pointless because they will be obsolete when 6E comes out. And finally, we will end 2023. This is going to be the big note of contention. I'm calling it now. This is going to be the number one topic. Planescape, the love of Planescape, the gonzo sci-fi fantasy interdimensional, amazingly awesomeness, weirdness that is Planescape, and how will Wizards of the Coast mess it up? Once again, calling it now, the #1 story for 2023 will be Planescape. This is the one that we will be rattling our sabers and arguing over throughout most of the year next year. There is a lot of love for Planescape. There's a lot of, this was utterly pointless. Why did they ever make this for Planescape? There's a lot of, there's a good setting for high levels, but you can't really run a campaign in Planescape. Planescape has a lot of hate. And then there will also be the, how can Wizards of the Coast do Planescape right without making it the same disaster that many people made, that worried that Radiant Citadel and Spelljammer was. And we all know that Spelljammer definitely faltered at after it came out of the gate, and has not done well since then, and kind of feels Wizards has already tossed it aside, much like Radiant Citadel. It's been a couple of weeks when we've heard it, since we've heard anything from Wizards about Spelljammer, and already all the anger over Spelljammer has dwindled away as we are now refocusing our anger onto the OneDnD playtest and what we can expect with the next round, which we'll be moving on to that in just a second. So yeah, I'm calling it now. This is going to be the thing. This is going to be the one we were going to be expecting the most out of. We're going to be the most disappointed with. It's going to cause the most arguments. Yeah, this is it. This is the one. Now, moving on to, will we see any more Magic the Gathering to D&D conversions in 2023, even though there's absolutely nothing on the calendar right now? I'm 60% yes. I don't know which ones, because I'm completely out of touch with Magic. Will they somehow bring the Brothers War or the Phyrexian into D&D books? Because those seem to be the two main storylines that never go away in Magic the Gathering lore. I don't know. It partially feels like they kind of gave up on the Magic the Gathering stuff after Strixhaven, and partially feels like there's a lot of lore and stuff out there in the Magic the Gathering sets that could be. I know everybody wanted them to do the Vikings one. So yeah, will there be one? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say there's going to be at least one. Either it's a DM's Guild expansion or it's an official surprise. But yeah, at least one. Now it's going on to the other one. What's going to go on with the OneDnD playtest in 2023? Yeah, sidebar. I brought this up before. I love all the people who think it's done. It's like they're referring to OneDnD as it is as a finished product, and this is it. There's even like at least a couple out there already going, the two camps, the OSR versus OneDnD. What I think about OneDnD in 2024. Somehow there has been a loss of communication from this side of the brain to this side of the brain, where people are like, I have completely forgotten that OneDnD is a playtest of which we've only seen three. We've only seen, as of today, three and a half classes. We have seen the Ranger class and how it has been changed. Continuing the, why do you hate Rangers so much, Wizards of the Coast? Instead of just nerfing them and continuing to try and make them something they're not, just get rid of them. Make them an option for fighters, okay? Because you obviously hate them. Because you keep nerfing them and you don't seem to know what to do with them. Then we have Rogues, who didn't really change that much. Then we had the Bards, who got a kind of a little upgrade, but still it sort of feels like it's the class Wizards of the Coast doesn't really know what to do with. And again, it should probably be a player option class and not a class on its own. You know, it could be a subclass of Rogue, and I think everybody would be fine with that. I love Bards, but do they really need to be a class on their own? Then we have Cleric, and we saw Cleric and the life build Cleric. We didn't see the rest of the Cleric ideas. Now, that was an unusual choice, because if you look at Cleric, in 5e, and you look at Cleric as it is in the playtest right now, it seems to be like Wizards of the Coast wants to get Clerics out of the preconceived stereotype that they are just walking Band-Aids. You know, they can do a lot of other stuff. Look, we're going to give them all the abilities that Paladins have now, thus making Paladins either pointless or just another version. But we're going to screw over the number one Cleric spell that isn't healing, and that's, you know, Spiritual Weapon. And we're going to present you with the healing subclass, even though we don't want you to think Clerics are healers anymore. Which means if we're going by the way the pyramid of stuff looks right now, where are the other two? Because we're supposed to be getting 3 for each build. We're getting 3 martial types, 3 expert types, 3 arcane types, and 3 divine types. So where are the other 2 divines? Now I'm assuming the other 2 divines are going to be Druid and Paladin, even though Druids get their powers from Primal, not Divine. And are they going to keep the 3 spells? I think there should only be 2. Arcane spells, divine spells. Primal spells are just divine spells. They're just... So we're missing Paladin. We're missing Druid. We have yet to see Wizard. We have yet to see Sorcerer. We have yet to see Warlock. We have yet to see Artifactor. We have yet to see, of course, the meat and potatoes, the class that you can't... Where are the fighters? We have yet to see the fighters or any of the fighting combat options. Haven't seen fighter, haven't seen barbarian, haven't seen monk. Now, assuming they're going to keep all those, plus the 48 subclasses, the OneDnD playtest is far from over. So again, it sort of baffles me why people kind of keep referring to it as if it's a one and done rule set and that's it. But it's like, dude, we haven't even seen combat and spells yet, much less monsters, magic items, you know, anything that might be in the other 2 books. We've seen some basic player handbook crap. So what is the next one going to be after Clerics? Well, the first one was sort of long. The second one was sort of long. The third one was kind of short. I think the next one will probably be short. I think they're going to do long, long, short, short, long, long, short, short, but I could be wrong. I expect the next one after Cleric will be the martial classes. Because really, you can't have the rest of OneDnD 6e being playtested without, you know, the go-to class. Fighters. Where are my fighters? And then once we get to the arcane classes, well, that's just going to be huge because that's when we're going to start talking about spells. And so far, we've only seen a few spells changed, but I have a feeling once we get to the playtest for arcane casters, that one will be a big one. So the first one for 2023 is probably going to be martial classes. So yeah, we got a ways to go on the OneDnD 6th edition playtest. And by the way, Wizards of the Coast has officially started referring to it as 6th edition. Now, nowhere on this list do we have any of the other IP stuff for what they have planned. There's still supposedly a skirmish game coming out for Dragonlance and a whole line of figures for that skirmish game. There's still other stuff, you know, adventures. There's no other than Tyranny, which I don't think is going to sell. Keys of the Golden Vault, kind of an adventure, but not really. The Foundelver campaign setting, I guess that's an adventure. But where are our return to classics? You know, we've got Tomb of Annihilation, we've got Storm King's Thunder, but there's still a bunch out there that we haven't revisited in 5e conversions. Are we going to see any of those? I mean, we've done against the Giants with Storm King's Thunder, but what about Descent to the Depths of the Earth? Is that Into the Abyss? Out of the Abyss? I guess Out of the Abyss could be. What about the Pharaoh modules? You know, Desolation of Martek. What about some of the other ones? Bloodstone. The Bloodstone Pass stuff. Well, you know, these are a bunch of adventures still that haven't been converted to 5e that Wizards could still milk before the end of 2023. Plus there's figures, maps, board games, other stuff. Yeah. So despite this list, I think we're going to see at least 2 or 3 surprises that are on this list, plus sub things like figures and board games and breakfast cereals and stuff like that. And of course, the continuing argument over the OGL and digital art and OneDnD versus 5e, OneDnD versus the OSR, OneDnD versus 6th edition, multiple rounds of play testing where they will completely ignore multiple rounds of surveys where they will say, oh, 20,000 people took the survey. That's really successful of us. D&D is the biggest it's ever been. It's been the most popular it's ever been. At any point in time, we've got 5 million people playing, only 20 of which took the survey. And then we'll have the other companies out there, because there are other companies out there. And I think the real story in all this is not, Tyranny of Dragons, which nobody wanted, Keys from the Golden Vault. How are we going to do a crime-based series of adventures where nobody actually gets hurt? Book of Giants, that could be the one that's the surprise sleeper hit. Phandelver campaign, that could be the other surprise sleeper hit. Why Phandelver? Is the Phandelver setting going to be the official setting for 6e? Book of Many Things, utterly pointless. Why release a book of options for 5e when you're about to release a brand new campaign /world/rule book, which makes everything in this obsolete? Planescape. Oh my giddy aunt, the amount of conversations that are going to be about Planescape. Even people who hated Planescape and thought it was stupid, and I assure you there are a lot of people who thought Planescape was stupid, are going to be like, oh, I always loved Planescape. Don't fuck it up, Wizards of the Coast. But the big story is not Planescape. The big story is how is the rest of the gaming world going to react to Wizards of the Coast? You know, they're just like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are we going to do? How can we profit off this? How can we compensate for this? What holes are Wizards of the Coast digging that we can fill in? Put this in your mind now. Who is going to be the pathfinder to 6e when 6e explodes? And will any of this matter with the Wizards of the Coast drive to take 6e digital? I'm assuming every one of these titles that we've mentioned will have a digital counterpart in the D&D Beyond setting. But as Wizards of the Coast continues to migrate away from physical to digital, will any of these actually matter if they cannot be successfully converted to the digital marketplace /digital environment of D&D Beyond? Because if they can't, if this big experiment of theirs fails, which a lot of people are predicting it will, well, then everything I just said over the past 20 minutes is utterly pointless, because these are just going to be like, well, what the fuck happened to Planescape? They already gave up on it. You know, I mean, remember a couple weeks ago, what was the big story? Oh, goddamn you, Wizards of the Coast, and what you did to start Spelljammer. And now it's, what happened to Spelljammer? Where'd it go? What are we upset about now? And Wizards of the Coast, in its usual ravenous bloodbatter beast of Trawl mentality, is like, well, if we don't see Spelljammer, we can't talk about Spelljammer. So we're just going to focus all our attention on whatever's next. A book nobody wanted. Meanwhile, Planescape is going to be the big story of 2023. How the rest of the industry is going to respond to Wizards of the Coast in 2023, and who is going to step up and go, yeah, let's go Wizards of the Coast, Is it going to be Pathfinder 2nd edition? Is it going to be another game? What about the 5th edition OGL companies? What about the OGL companies who use the OGL but have nothing to do with D&D? Like, I don't know, Mutants and Masterminds, because I have a feeling a lot of people who are produced product under the OGL, like Mutants and Masterminds. Yes, I know there are other OGL games besides Mutants and Masterminds, but let's face it, Mutants and Masterminds is one of the most successful, and it's the one that first comes to my mind without actually having to think. How is OGL 1.1.0.1 going to affect them? It's not. But I know a lot of people are afraid that it is. So yeah, my predictions for 2023 are those. Okay. What do you think? Yes, I agree, Kurt. Even though we're supposedly getting 48 subclasses, I have a feeling that 44 of those 48 subclasses will be unnecessary. Even though we're having the 12 main classes plus artifactor, don't really need them. You have fighter. Make ranger a subtype of fighter. Make bard a subclass of rogue. Sorcerer and warlock. That's a whole separate video of ways those could have been done differently. But if you hate Rangers so much, Wizards of the Coast, just make them a fighter subclass. Nobody gets Bard. You've never really known what to do with them. The OG original Bard was the best version of the Bard. So yeah, Bard should be a subclass of Rogue, not its own class. Ranger should, I don't know, yeah. Paladin. Well, since you've sort of made clerics paladins, there's no really reason to have a paladin class anymore. So I guess they could be a subclass of cleric. Monks, I probably should just get rid of them because, that's cultural appropriation, martial arts. We're Americans. We don't have a martial art that we've ever made. You're stealing Asian culture by having monks. So I'm offended. So take monks out of the game because that's just going to upset someone. Yeah. Anyways, that's what we can expect from Wizards of the Coast from 2024. What about the rest of the gaming world? What have they got planned for 2024 besides just sitting there going, what are they going to do next? I don't know. Hopefully good things. I guess that would go back to our list of most anticipated games of 2024, 2023. What year is it? I don't know. You know what I mean. Don't listen to me. I obviously haven't had enough coffee yet. Here we go. But not just any coffee. Oh no, this is sponsored coffee. I want to give a big shout out to my affiliate, Kusa Coffee. Thank you for reaching out to me. Thank you for trusting me with your brand. Kusa Coffee is amazing. It is all I have been drinking for the past month. I gave up soda for these guys. So you got to know their coffee is amazing. This is my last one. I got to order some more. This is the flavor that I'm enjoying the most. It is the dirty chai. Now, chai was already my favorite flavor of coffee because I love the punch that chai has. They're just instant little coffee things. You can carry them in your pocket. You pour them in hot or cold water, ready in 2 minutes. A full coffee experience, bountiful flavors, good aroma, good punch, locally grown, locally sourced, farm to table, cold pressed. Other words that, mean nothing but inspire confidence in a company with my usual level of sarcasm. But look, all kidding aside, I'm drinking their coffee every day, which means I haven't had a soda other than a ginger ale in over a month. So if that does it for me, you got to think this coffee is amazing. So use my link down below, get 25% off your first purchase of Kuso coffee from their site sent to you. For an additional $4, they will send you a free sampling of some of their other flavors, including dirty chai, mocha, vanilla, dark roast, etc., etc., etc. If you're a coffee person and you want really good, real easy to make, real cheap, on-the-go coffee that doesn't require any special machine, Kuso Coffee, check out my link, get 25% off your first purchase, and you support me in 2024. Till next time, I'm the OG GM, your guide to all the tabletop role-playing game news, weather, and general Wizards of the Coast nonsense, reminding you that if you don't like this content, let me know. If you have a topic you'd like me to address, let me know. If you haven't subscribed yet, please take a moment to subscribe. It costs you nothing and means everything to me. Thank you to each and every one of you who helped me reach 1,000 subs, but our new goal is 1 billion subs by the end of 2023. Because why the not? Till next time, stay warm, stay dry, and stay off of my land, you damn kids!